chapter number 3, which is anatomy of the flowering plants. In the first 2 chapters we have seen the morphology. As we know, in this semester there are 3 chapters of botany, which is first, second and third. We have already seen the first 2 chapters, which explains the morphology of the flowering plants, that is root, stem, leaf, flower, fruit, seed and all. Now we are going to study the internal parts of the plant, which mainly includes tissues, because tissues are the one which are mainly responsible for undergoing various activities of the plant. So what are the different type of tissues and the cells present in the plant is what we are going to study in this chapter. So let us see about it. Now we are studying this from very long time, that all the organization of any type of living organism will start with a simple structure, which is cell. The cells, all the particular type of cells will combine together and they will produce and they will form tissues. The tissues will combine together and they will form organ. All the organs will combine together and they will form organ system. So and in turn all the organ systems will finally form the organism. So this is how different type of organisms are coming into existence. But when you will see the deep down into their body, that is the internal part of the body, they mainly consist of 2 things, which is cells and tissues. So the entire picture is rotating around these 2 things, which is cells and tissues, which is making up their main body structure, responsible for numerous activities that they undergo in their body. So this is the whole chapter is about these 2 things only, different type of cells which are constituting different type of tissues. So this is what the anatomy is. Plant anatomy is usually the study of the internal parts of the plant, what we are going to cover in this chapter. As we know, there are different types of plants. If we only consider one category, which is the angiosperms, that shows the flowering plants. Angiosperms also has 2 further categories, which is monocotyledons and dicotyledons. Both of them will also have the different structure, though they are belonging to the same angiosperms, but both of them will be having different constitution. So let us see how the anatomy of the plants is. Now, you must be knowing the cell is the most simple structural and functional unit of living organisms. What is the tissue? That is what we are going to study mainly in this chapter. First of all, tissue is a group of cells which are having common origin and functions. The group of cell having common origin and functions, and all the cells with combining together and performing the same type of function is what we call a tissue. Okay, so basically a different type of plant can be made up of one or different type of tissue, and accordingly we give the name to the tissue. If it is made up of only one type, then we call it simple. If it is made up of different types altogether, then we call it complex, right? So this is what a tissue is. Usually tissues are of 2 main types. One is meristematic tissue and another is permanent tissue. So one is meristematic tissue, another is permanent tissue. Let us see what the different type of tissues are. First is meristematic tissue. Now you must be knowing maybe about meristem. If not, then let me tell you. Meristem is the term which is used for the cells which are actively dividing, or else I can say continuously dividing cells are particularly said to be meristems. Okay, meristems can be of different type in the different areas, or else I can say meristem will be the unit of the different type of tissues, right? So basically this meristems are the one which are mainly forming the meristematic tissues. That is, all the continuously dividing cells are forming the meristematic tissue. meristematic tissues, or I can say meristems, can be of two types. The first type of meristem is apical meristem. Now what does apical meristem are? Let us see that. Now those meristems which are present at the tips of roots and shoots. Right? Roots are the underground part of the plant, shoots are the above ground part of the plant. So that the meristems which are present at the tip of the roots and the shoots are said to be apical meristems. These meristems are mainly involved for increasing the length of the plant. That is, they are, as suppose if this is the shoot system, the tip portion is called as apical. So this is mainly involved in increasing the number of cells and thereby increasing the length of the plant. So apical meristems are mainly for that purpose. Sometimes when the apical meristem will increase the length of the plant, then some of the meristems will be left behind. Those left behind meristems will be forming axillary buds. And this axillary buds is mainly there for the formation of flowers and branches. Right? So in a particular shoot area, the tip portion will be the apical meristem. When it is continuously increasing the length of the shoot, some of the cells are left behind in the decreasing part of the stem. Those will be developing the flowers or the lateral branches in the main stem. And all of this are always responsible for the primary growth of the plant. Okay? So as the flowers and the branches will be developing, and these branches will be bearing different type of leaves on them. So this is about the apical meristem. Another one is intercalary meristem. Now intercalary meristem is usually there between the permanent tissues. It is usually there between the permanent tissue. Let me give you an example. And intercalary meristems are usually present in grasses or any of the plants which are mainly the food of the grazing animals. Now what do grazing animals do? They won't be eating the entire plant. They'll be eating certain leafy or greeny part or the bushy area of the plant. And what does this intercalary do is, the intercalary meristem will redevelop the eaten up part. Those parts which are eaten up by the grazing animals will be regenerated by a meristem which is present over there, and that meristem is intercalary meristem. So this is what it does. Both apical as well as intercalary, both the meristems are said to be primary meristems. Why they are said to be primary meristems? Because both of them are appearing in the early stage of a plant life. That is the first reason. And the second reason is, both of them are responsible for the primary growth of the plant. That is, increasing in the length and the girth. So that is the reason. These are the two reasons why these two type of meristems are said to be primary meristem. The third type of meristem is you can say secondary, because these two were primary. So secondary meristem, or we can also call it lateral meristem. Okay, now why do we call it? We were calling first two primary because they were appearing in the early stage of the plant life and responsible for the primary growth. Exactly opposite will be the situation for secondary and lateral. As they are appearing later in the plant life, so they are said to be lateral meristem. They are responsible for the secondary growth of the plant, so they are said to be secondary meristem. So that is the third type of meristem. Let us see the location of this. This type of meristems are usually present in the bark of a tree, which is in the form of cork cambium, and it is present in the vascular bundles of the plant. Vascular bundles, you must be knowing, xylem and phloem, responsible for the transportation of water and food. In that case also secondary meristems are present, which are called as vascular cambium. And as I said, both this type of cambium or the type of meristem is mainly responsible for the secondary growth of the plant. So this is all about meristematic tissues. Now the second type of tissue is permanent tissue. So let us see about permanent tissue. Now permanent tissue, meristematic tissue was said to be meristematic because it was involving continuously dividing cells. Permanent is said to be permanent because the cells which it possesses won't be undergoing continuous division. Those meristematic cells which after division lose the capacity to divide and become structurally and functionally specific, those type of tissues are said to be permanent. I can say those type of cells are called as permanent cells, and those cells will be forming permanent tissue. So that is all about permanent tissue. Permanent tissue are again of two types. First is simple permanent tissue and second is complex permanent tissue. We call simple permanent tissue simple because it consists of only one type of cell, whatever it is, but it will have entirely the same type of cell having common origin and common function. And if there are different type of cells arranged in the same tissue, all having different function and structures, then that is called as complex permanent tissue. Let us see both of them in detail. First is simple permanent tissue. As I said, simple permanent tissue will be made up of single type of cells. All these cells will have same origin and same function. So that is called as simple tissue. Simple tissue are further divided into three types. That is parenchyma, collenchyma and sclerenchyma. So the three types of simple tissues are parenchyma, collenchyma and sclerenchyma. Let us see all of them. First is parenchyma. This is the diagram for parenchyma. Now let us see what the type of parenchyma cells are. Parenchyma cells are first of all very thin-walled. That is, if you can see, the cells are very thin-walled in shape. Either the cells will be closely arranged, as you can see in the diagram, that is, they won't have any intercellular space in between, or they will be loosely arranged with intercellular space in between. It can have any of this. Okay. Then if you see the structure of the cells, then the cells are isodimetric. That means all the cells are of same diameter. If we look towards the shape, then either it could be oval shape or it could be spherical in shape. So this is their structure. Now if we see to the location, that where they are located, then they are mainly located in the part of the plant like root, stem, leaf, flower, fruit, etc. Then if we see the function of this type of particular type of tissue, then the function will be as it is present in root, stem, leaf, flower, fruit, everywhere. Then whatever the function of this all area is, will be the function of parenchyma. Or on the contrary, I can say that all these particular things like root, stem, leaf, flower, fruit are performing their specific function because they have parenchyma. So basically the functions of parenchyma are photosynthesis. Then it can be used for synthesizing activity. It can be used for storage activity, etc. So this is the first type of simple permanent tissue, which is parenchyma. Second type of simple permanent tissue is collenchyma. This is the diagram of collenchyma. Now collenchymas are usually said to be the live cells. The cell wall of parenchymatous cells, which we have seen previously, was made up of cellulose. The cell wall of collenchyma, what we are seeing right now, that is also made up of cellulose. But over here, there will be secondary wall deposition. and that secondary wall deposition is done by a polysaccharide called pectin. So primary wall will be made up of cellulose. There will be secondary wall which will be deposited by a constituent called pectin. So as a result, the walls, the secondary walls or the angular areas will be highly thickened one because of the secondary wall deposition. Collenchyma is mainly involved for the function of flexibility and elasticity. If we see the location, then they are mainly present in the tender area. Tender is very soft area. So tender area of petiole, that you must be knowing, petiole is a part of the leaf which connects to the leaf base, and stem. It is never present in monocots or underground part of the plant. That can be root or any other part which is at a time underground, that won't have this collenchyma. So collenchyma is basically present in the tender, the soft part of petiole and stem, and it will provide them protection by rendering elasticity and flexibility. Right? That's it. Other than that, collenchymas are mainly present in the areas called hypodermis. Hypodermis is present in the ground tissue area just below the epidermis. So wherever they are mainly there for flexibility and elasticity in order to get the proper amount of sunlight. So this is all about collenchyma. Third is sclerenchyma. Now sclerenchymas are said to be the dead cells. They are not the live cells, they are the dead cells. Again, the primary cell wall will be made up of cellulose, but the secondary wall deposition will be there over here also, and over here the deposition is of lignin. In collenchyma it was of pectin, over here it is of lignin. So primary wall of cellulose, secondary wall of lignin. Particularly this type of cell, the secondary wall deposition of lignin, it becomes so thick that the cell wall becomes thick, tight and impermeable to water. That means it won't allow the water or water-based particles to enter inside because of the high deposition of lignin. The main function of sclerenchyma is mechanical support. It is providing support to the part of the plant where they are located. Then let us see the location where they are located. Mainly sclerenchymas are present in hypodermis. As I said, it is just below epidermis. Pericycle, it is just below endodermis. Secondary form of xylem as well as phloem. These areas constitute sclerenchyma, which are mainly used for the support. Sclerenchymas, depending on their origin, structure, characteristics, they are further divided into two types. That is, this is the first type, which is sclerids, and these are the sclerids. And so another type of parts are also there, which are called fibers. Basically, fibers are very long needle shape of the structure, which are pointed from both the ends. As you can see in the diagram, they'll be pointed from both the ends. They'll be thick walled, dead, and mainly they will be there for the mechanical support. Second is sclerids. As you can see in the diagram, sclerids will be oval, or they can be spherical, or they can be cylindrical, they can be of any type of shape. They have a very narrow lumen, which is empty space in between. Sclerids can be located in different areas. Again, they are also very thick walled. The locations are given to you. That is, it is present in the fruit wall of nuts like cashew nuts and ground nuts and all. They could be present in the pulp of the fruits like guava, pear, sapota. Sapota is chiku. Then they are also present They can be present in the walls of the fruits called legumes. They can also be present in the leaves of the plants like tea. So all these are the areas where sclerids will be present, and again their function will be same, mechanical support. So this is all about the three types of simple permanent tissue, that is parenchyma, sclerenchyma and collenchyma. Complex permanent tissue. Complex permanent tissue is said to be complex because it has more than one type of cell. Now all the cells might have different origin or different structures, but what they do is all the cells will combine with each other to perform same function. That is the speciality of the complex tissue, that whatever different type of cells it has, but all the cells will be combining with each other to perform same type of function. So that's called complex tissue. Okay. Now complex tissue, the main function of the complex tissue is transportation. And what do they transport? Then they are mainly transporting the stuff like water, ions, nutrients, or anything, minerals, sort of things. As they are useful for transportation purpose, they are also said to be conducting tissues. Complex tissues. Okay. Now you must be knowing in the plants there are only two types of conducting tissue. One is xylem and another is phloem. So there are two types of complex permanent tissue or conducting tissue, that is xylem and phloem. Let us see them in detail. The first is xylem. Xylem is basically the part which is mainly involved for transportation of water and mineral ions in the plant, starting from root to each and every part of the plant. Okay, now the components of xylem. Now xylem is mainly having four components, that is tracheids, vessel, xylem parenchyma and xylem fibers. The first two are tracheids and vessels. Now both these components are said to be the main component for transporting water. Out of all four, the main component used for the transportation of water is tracheids and vessels. I'll tell you the structure of the tracheids and vessel. Tracheids are particularly having pointed ends and they will be overlapping each other. On the contrary, vessels will usually have open ends, that is they don't have that pointed one, they'll be having open ends and they are located side by side to each other. They are not overlapping. Tracheids were pointed, vessels are open ends. Tracheids were overlapping, vessels are adjacent to each other, that is side by side to each other. Another difference would be tracheids are mainly present in pteridophytes and gymnosperms, and vessels are mainly present in angiosperms. So this is tracheids and vessels. The third type of component is xylem parenchyma. Xylem parenchyma is mainly, as it is a parenchyma cell, it is a live cell, it is mainly there for the storage purpose over here, and they are storing the substances like starch, lipid, tannin and other crystalline substances. That is all about xylem parenchyma. Fourth is xylem fibers. Xylem fibers are usually the sclerenchymatous fibers, what we have seen just before this. They will be pointed, as I said, needle-like apices. You must have seen needle Okay, so it is usually pointed on both the ends. It would be like that, pointed on both the ends, and as it is fiber, it is mainly there for mechanical support. So this is all about xylem. Now the second type of conducting tissue is phloem. Now xylem was there for the transportation of water and the mineral ions. Phloem, on the contrary, is there for the transportation of the product which are the result of photosynthesis, that is food. So mainly phloem is there for the transportation of food. So phloem is mainly there for the transportation of food, the result of photosynthesis. Phloem is the component of phloem is different in angiosperms as well as gymnosperms. First of all, let me tell you the components of phloem in gymnosperms. Gymnosperms have sieve cells, albuminous cell, phloem parenchyma, and phloem fibers. These are the four components of gymnosperms. Out of this, sieve cells and albuminous cell will be the main component for the transportation of food. But in case of angiosperms, in spite of sieve cells and albuminous cells, they have sieve tube elements and companion cells. The rest two are the same. That is, angiosperms will be having sieve tube elements, companion cells, phloem parenchyma and phloem fibers. And again in this, the main element for the transportation of food would be sieve tube elements and companion cells. Now, let us see the structure of this. Sieve tube elements are very long and tubular structure. Companion cells are always accompanied to them, and that's the reason they are said to be companion cells. Sieve tube elements have the nucleus which they'll lose at the maturity. So later on, the entire food transportation will be governed by the nucleus of companion cells. So this is how both of them are correlated to each other. As I said, they are the main elements for the transportation of food to different parts of the plant. Next, this is a diagram of phloem fiber, it is present. The third element present is phloem parenchyma. Again, as it is made up of parenchyma cells, so they are the live cells. They are also used for the storage purpose, which are the food materials like mucilage, resin, latex, etc. All such type of food items are stored in the phloem parenchyma. And the last one is phloem fibers. Again, they are thick-walled, have needle-like apices. That is, they are pointed to both the end, and over here also they are used for mechanical support. So this is all about complex permanent tissue. So with this, tissue and the types of tissues are over. Now, the different type of tissues will together form tissue system. So as I said, a tissue is what we call as a group of cells having common origin and function. Different tissues together will form system called tissue system. Now there are three main types of tissue system in the plants. First is epidermal tissue system, which is mainly present in the external areas of the plant tissue. Then ground tissue system, which forms the main body of the plant tissues. And the third is vascular tissue system, which is mainly for acting for the conduction purpose. So first we are starting with epidermal tissue system. Epidermal tissue system mainly consists of epidermis. Now let us see the characteristic of this layer. Epidermis is the outermost layer, single layer of the cells, which are mainly made up of compactly arranged, barrel shape, parenchymatous cell. So it will be the single layer of the cell in the outermost part of any plant part, which can be root, stem or leaf. Single layer of the cells will be there, compactly arranged, there is no spaces in between. They will be of barrel shape and all of them would be of parenchyma type. So this is epidermis. Now the epidermis of stem and leaf, that is the epidermis area, the first layer of stem and leaf will be very thick walled. Why? Because they are involved for the purpose of protection. So in that case the layer is called as epidermis. Above this layer there will be a covering of cuticle present. Covering of cuticle will be present over the epidermis of stem and leaf. This cuticle is mainly present to prevent the loss of water because of transpiration. In case of roots, the layer of epidermis is very thin walled. Why? Because they are involved for the purpose of absorption. So in this case they are said to be epiblemma or piliferous layer. And over here cuticle would be absent. No cuticle would be present on the epiblemma or piliferous layer of roots. Further, not just this, but the epidermis also has certain appendages on them. Those appendages are in the form of hairs. If it is stem or leaf, then these appendages would be multicellular and they are called as trichomes. Again, they are mainly there for preventing the water loss because of transpiration, and sometimes they can also secrete some important particles. In case of roots, this type of appendages are unicellular and they are called as root hairs. And over here they are mainly involved between the soil particles for the absorption purpose. There is an exceptional case over here in roots, which is the orchid roots, the epiphytic roots of orchid. The exception is that they are roots, but the epiphytic roots of the orchids do have root hairs, but those root hairs are of multicellular type rather than the unicellular. So it's an exceptional case. In specific case like leaf, in the epidermis portion they have special type of cells or the special type of pore which is called as stomata, which will be taking up the sunlight in the day and night. Stomatas are governed by, they are covered by two bean shape of cells which are called as guard cells. In case of monocots or grasses, the guard cells will be of dumbbell shape, and the guard cells are surrounded by various supporting cells which are called subsidiary cells. The guard cells are mainly responsible for the opening and closing of stomata. So all these three things, stomata, the stomatal upper the hole, the covering guard cell and the subsidiary cells, all of them together are called stomatal apparatus. So this is all about epidermal tissue system. Next is ground tissue system. Everything except epidermis, which was included in epidermal tissue system, and vascular bundles included in vascular tissue system. Everything except that is included in ground tissue system. It is mainly made up of three types of cell, which is parenchyma, collenchyma and sclerenchyma. Okay, so let us see them. The first layer is hypodermis. Hypodermis is a layer below epidermis. It is made up of, I can say, 2 to 3 layers of sclerenchyma or collenchyma cells. That is, we have seen epidermis in the previous system. Just below epidermis, hypodermis is present, which can be of 2 to 3 layers. Either it is made up of sclerenchyma cells or it is made up of collenchyma cells. So that is hypodermis, mainly as it is made up of sclerenchyma and collenchyma. So the main function of hypodermis will be mechanical support. The second type is cortex. Cortex is the main area of the entire ground tissue system. It comes below hypodermis. Many layers are there in the cortex, and usually they are made up of parenchyma cells. That is, they can be either closely arranged or they can be loosely arranged with some intercellular spaces in between, and they can be undergoing any type of function. The major body of any part of the plant is mainly made up of cortex. Below cortex, or I can say the lowermost part of the cortex, is endodermis. Endodermis is the innermost part of cortex. Endodermis is again the same as epidermis. It is also single layer, barrel shape of the cell, parenchymatous, closely arranged without any intercellular space. The same to same description as epidermis. As epidermis is the outermost layer, endodermis is the innermost layer of cortex. That's the only difference. Then comes pericycle, the layer under endodermis is pericycle. If it is stem, then pericycle would be multi-layer and made up of sclerenchyma cells. If it is roots, then it would be single layer and made up of parenchyma cells. So that is pericycle. After pericycle, there will be the vascular bundles arranged, but the vascular bundles will be the part of vascular tissue system. So the centermost part will be over here, which is pith. So pith is included in ground tissue system. Pith is made up of loosely arranged parenchymatous cells. They are usually of many layered arrangement, and they are mainly used for the storage of the excretory substances or the waste substances. So that is about ground tissue system. If specifically we ask about leaf, then leaf won't have all these layers like cortex and pericycle and endodermis and hypodermis. The entire ground tissue system of leaf is made up of parenchyma cells with chloroplast, and that is called as chlorenchyma specifically, and that is the ground tissue system of leaf is called as mesophyll. So this is all about ground tissue system. Next is vascular tissue system. Those system which contain vascular bundles is called vascular tissue system. The vascular bundles are xylem for the transportation of water and minerals, and phloem for the transportation of food materials prepared by photosynthesis. So basically we can say that vascular bundles are unit of vascular tissue system. Okay. Vascular bundles are basically have cambium, that is xylem and phloem will be differentiated from each other through the absence and presence of cambium. If cambium is a meristematic, continuously dividing cell, so if cambium is present between xylem and phloem, then that type of vascular bundles are called as open vascular bundles. If cambium is absent between xylem and phloem, then they are called as closed vascular bundles. So these are the two types. Now let us see the types of vascular bundle. Now vascular bundles are basically of two types. One is radial and another is conjoint. The difference between the two is that in case of radial, on a single radii, either only, as you can see in the diagram, on the same radii, either only xylem or only phloem will be present. On the same radii, both won't be together. See in the diagram, this is a single radii. then this is only xylem. Can you see on the same radii phloem? No. On the contrary, this is phloem on a particular radii. Can you see on the same radii xylem with it? No. So on the particular radii, either only xylem will be there or only phloem will be there. That is called as radial type of vascular bundle. The second type of vascular bundle is conjoint. In case of conjoint vascular bundle, both xylem as well as phloem will be there on the same radii. That's the reason it is called conjoint. Now, in the conjoint, there are three types of arrangement of xylem and phloem. Let us see them. The first type is concentric. As you can see, in concentric vascular bundle, one will surround another. That is, in the first diagram you can see phloem is in the center, then xylem is completely surrounding it, but both are there on the same radii. So it's concentric. On the contrary, in the second diagram, xylem is in the center and phloem is completely surrounding it, but they are on the same radii. So any one will be in the center and second will be completely surrounding them. That's called concentric vascular bundle. They are usually present in roots. Okay. The second type is collateral. This is the diagram of collateral. In case of collateral, phloem will be on the outer side and xylem will be there on the inner side. As you can see in the diagram, this is xylem on the lower side, phloem on the outer side. Outer to what? To epidermis. Inner to what? To pith. Okay. In the first diagram, you can see no cambium in between xylem and phloem. So in that case, that is called as collateral and close vascular bundle. In the second diagram, you are seeing cambium between xylem and phloem. Then in that case, it is called as open collateral vascular bundle. And the third type of conjoint is bicollateral. This is the diagram of bicollateral. In this case, as you can see, xylem is in center and phloem surrounds on both sides. So xylem is in the center, as you can see in the diagram, and on both the side phloem is present, and both the side xylem is differentiated from phloem by the presence of cambium. So they are always open type. So this is all about conjoint, and this is all about the tissue systems.